Hey there, kindergarten, and happy Thanksgiving week. I am so excited for Thanksgiving right around the corner. You know, we've actually had 400 years of the Thanksgiving holiday. It was on this week, 400 years ago, that we had our first ever Thanksgiving. And I thought today I could teach you all the history of that first Thanksgiving. And to do it, I have some paintings that can help us as we talk about this. So why don't we jump over and check out those paintings together, friends? So here we are. You see, many, many years ago, before we ever came to America, we our ancestors started out in Europe and things weren't going very well for them and they weren't happy. They were told they had to dress a certain way, they were told they had to live a certain way. And they just said, enough is enough. We want to go somewhere where we can have freedom to live life the way we want to live it. And so they packed up their things and they got on a boat and they decided to go to a new place that people had recently found called America. Now, it was not easy for them. You see, nowadays you can fly in an airplane and get to America in a few hours, but it took weeks and weeks on boat through the ocean. And it wasn't comfortable. It was packed jam tight, and you got seasick and belly aches from being on the boat. On top of that, the food was not very good. They didn't have a refrigerator, so all they could pack were things like potatoes and bread, and they just had to eat that over and over and over again while on the boat when they didn't have belly aches. And they didn't have beds, so they slept on the ground, all packed together on the boat, which was really hard for a lot of them. They were not comfortable at all. Some days were stormy, and it was hard to keep going, especially in the middle of the ocean. They couldn't even see any land. But one day they looked out in the morning and they saw land. They had made it to the land that we now call America. And they got off that boat and they ran and they played and they were so happy and so excited. And the captain of the big boat they were on told them, "I'll be back in a year if you need me," in case they had to give up. You see, when they got to America, there were no roads, there were no houses that they could see. They thought they were all alone and they were going to have to build everything from scratch. So right away, they got to planning because winter was coming up really soon. So they chopped their wood and they gathered up hay to make their houses, and they worked and they worked and they worked. Everyone in the town, children, moms, dads, everybody worked as hard as they could. But winter came, and it came really fast. And they only had about half the houses that they needed to get through the winter. And some of those houses weren't built the right way and they burned down, which meant people were cold and hungry all winter long, and it was tough. Some of the pilgrims got sick. A lot of them thought about going home on that boat when it comes back. Some of them even unfortunately passed away during this time. They wondered if they had made the wrong choice in coming to this new land. But winter ended and the snow melted, and they started building their homes the right way. They had all year long to build them and get them ready, and they got to work, never giving up. They even made their own plates and tables and beds. Here is a pilgrim cutting away to make a plate for them to eat off of. And here is a little girl stuffing a bed to make it for their tiny house. And her mom is making soup for the town. They even ended up finding out that they weren't alone. There were Native American Indians like Squanto who taught them about the land they were on. He taught the grown-ups how to hunt for food, and he taught the kids about how to make crafts and play games here in America. He was loved by the entire community. Eventually, things started to feel pretty good, and they started to feel like they were really at home, and things were turning up for them. So they started to have bountiful feasts. They were able to cook things like pork, and they were even able to make special luxuries like pillows. And when that boat came to pick them up, they said, no, 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 we are staying here. And not a single pilgrim went back to Europe. They all stayed here because they had made a new life for themselves. You see, the pilgrims had gone through so much, and it had been so hard on them. But when the hardship was over and they had the right life, they felt thankful for all that they had gone through, and thankful for their new life, and thankful for their new friends, the Native American Indians. So they decided to host a giant party. They gathered up all their veggies. They ground it up to make bread and sweets. They even gathered up fish and lobster. And they made soups. They played games together. And then the pilgrims and the Native Americans sat around a giant table to have their Thanksgiving feast, to celebrate all they had done that year and to say thank you to each other. You know, that is such a special memory, that first Thanksgiving, when we were able to come together and say thank you for the hard things, and thank you for them ending, and thank you to those in our community who supported us. I'll be honest, you know, after that, there were times where we did not treat those Native American Indians who had helped us so well as we should have, which is sad. But I do appreciate and I love that memory of that first Thanksgiving. You know, we see a lot of those traditions from our time. They had a big meal. They gathered as a family in a community. They played games. But there were also some things that were different. Like, I don't know about you, but I don't have fish and lobster on Thanksgiving. And I don't eat outside on Thanksgiving either. So this is what I want you all to work on. On one side of your paper, I want you to draw what the Pilgrims' Thanksgiving looked like. On the other side of the paper, I want you to draw what your Thanksgiving looks like. And then as a class, we're going to have a conversation about how has Thanksgiving changed and what are those traditions that we do every year. Work hard and have fun. I can't wait to see your Thanksgiving work. Bye, friends.